Members, I would now like to report on progress made since the last State of the Nation address and also to discuss our program of action for 2013. I'll look at the 5 priorities: education, health, the fight against crime, creating decent work, as well as rural development and land reform. Last year, I addressed the nation on government's infrastructure plan. By the end of March this year, starting from 2009, government will have spent about 860 billion rand on infrastructure. Various projects are being implemented around the country. I will discuss just a few. The construction of the first phase of the Mokolo and Crocodile River water augmentation has commenced, and it will provide part of the water required for the Matimba and the Medupi power stations. The construction of the bulk water distribution system for the Hope Dam began in October 2012 to supply water to the Greater Sekhukhune, Waterberg, and Capricorn district municipalities. We have to shift the transportation of coal from road to rail in Mpumalanga in order to protect the provincial roads. Thus, the construction of the Majuba rail coal line will begin soon. We have also committed to improve the movement of goods and economic integration through a Durban Free State Gauteng logistics and industrial corridor. In this regard, substantial work is now underway to develop the City Deep Inland Terminal in Gauteng. Initial work has commenced in the expansion of the Pier 2 in the Durban port. And thirdly, land has been purchased for the development of a new dugout port at the old Durban airport. In the Eastern Cape, I officially opened the port of Ngogha, and construction is now underway to develop a major new transshipment hub. The Mzimkhulu Dam is critical for rural development and rural livelihoods. Preparatory work has commenced for the construction to begin next year. The upgrading of Umtata Airport runway and terminal and the construction of the Nkosi Dalipunga Mandela Legacy Road and Bridge are currently underway. I have asked for work in the northwest to be fast-tracked further in light of the huge backlogs in that province, especially electricity, schools, clinics, roads, and water in the next 2 years. To improve the transportation of iron ore and open up the west coast of the country, we have expanded the rail capacity through the delivery of 11 locomotives. The first phase of the expansion to increase iron ore port capacity at Saldanha to 60 million tons per annum was officially completed in September last year. Construction work is taking place in 5 cities: Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, Rustenburg, eThekwini, Tshwane, to integrate the different modes of transport: bus, taxi, and train. In the energy sector, we have now laid 675 kilometers of electricity transmission lines to connect fast-growing economic centers and also to bring power to rural areas. In addition, government signed contracts to the value of 47 billion rand in the renewable energy program. This involves 28 projects in wind, solar, and small hydro technologies to be developed in the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Northern Cape, and in the Free State. We established an 100 million rand National Green Fund last year. To date, over 400 million rand investments in green economy projects has already been approved for municipalities, other organs of state, community organizations, and the private sector across all provinces. I'm talking about 800 million rands. We have also rolled out 315,000 solar water geysers as of January this year, most of which were given to poor households, many of whom had never had running hot water before. We have scored successes in extending basic services through the infrastructure program. Close to 200,000 households have been connected to the national electricity grid in 2012. You will also recall that Census 2011 outlined the successes in extending basic services. The report said the number of households with access to electricity is now at 12.1 million, which translates to 85%. 9 out of 10 households have access to water. To prepare for the advanced economy we need to develop, we will expand the broadband network. Last year, the private sector and public sector laid about 7,000 new fiber optic cables. The plan is to achieve 100% broadband internet penetration by 2020. With regard to social infrastructure, a total of 98 new schools will have been built by the end of March, of which more than 40 are in the Eastern Cape that are replacing mud schools. that are replacing mud schools. Construction is expected to begin in September at the sites of 2 new universities in the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga. Last week, we published an infrastructure development bill for public comment. We are cracking down on corruption, tender fraud, and price fixing in the infrastructure program. The state has collected a substantial dossier of information on improper conduct by large construction companies. This is now the subject of formal processes of the Competition Commission and other law enforcement authorities. The infrastructure development program has been a valuable source of learning for government. In the year ahead, we will fast-track many of the projects that the PICC has announced. The lessons are that we must coordinate, integrate, and focus on implementation.